This meeting is now being recorded.
Okay, good. All right, so for the first part of this call, we're going to be talking about the Family Outcome Survey and going through some of the information from that. I did post the Family Outcome Survey and the slides and some of the other information that we'll be looking at today on the eicolorado.org website, and it's under monthly TA calls under the November 2014 calls. So you can look at the material and the information there. So we're going to start with family outcomes and just go through them. We are required by federal law to collect these family outcomes. They are indicator 4 on our state performance plan, and we're required to collect information about if families know their rights, if they can effectively communicate their children's needs, and if they are able to help their children develop and learn. So what does it mean for a family to know their rights? We do send them with the Family Outcome Survey a copy of our frequently asked questions document that explains what it means to know their rights. And so basically it is if they know their rights, if they understand their role, and if they know who to call if they're not satisfied or if they need to file a complaint. Also on the Family Outcome Survey this year, we did put a little picture of the family rights brochure so that can kind of give them a jog of their memory that that's one of the things we're talking about here. For knowing if a family can effectively communicate their child's needs, this means that that families know that those that are involved in their child's early intervention services has helped them be able to communicate with the people that work with their child, understand their child's needs, advocate for their child, and feel that their efforts are really helping their child and that they feel like they're part of the team. What it means for a family to help their child develop and learn is that they feel skilled and confident as a parent. They feel that they can make changes in their family routine that is able to benefit their child, and they're able to do things with their child that are good for his or her development. So that's what we explain to families that these outcomes mean. So as you know, we distributed the Family Outcome Survey and the flyer to all of the families who had the children had active IFSPs in March, and those IFSPs had been active for 6 months. And we actually sent we pulled the data in March, and then we sent the outcome survey on April 15th. We also partnered with El Grupo Vida again to make phone calls to families who indicated that their primary language was Spanish, and we received about 60 surveys using that method. And we also had an online option to complete the survey as well. And that was that survey was in both Spanish and English on the SurveyMonkey. This is a copy of the survey. We only ask those 3 outcome questions, and then we also have a section at the bottom asking about if early intervention helped families incorporate any of the early literacy activities of reading, speaking, listening, and writing in their daily routines. We added some things this year. We put that the survey closes on June 30th, and we added a spot to that they could put any comments on the back of the survey if they were mailing it back in. We did send this with a return address envelope that didn't require them to add postage. So we use a scale of 1 to 7, with 1 being poor and 7 being excellent. And there's really no formal cutoff score for that's been statistically determined for the Family Outcome Survey, but a general rule might be that if they scored the survey 5 to 7, that we said that outcome had been attained. And if they scored that between 1 and 4, then that outcome needed improvement. So that's the scale that we went by as we analyze the data for this family outcome survey. We're also required to make sure that the survey is representative of the number of surveys that we distributed. And so we looked at race and ethnicity, age of the children, gender of the children, and size of the program, and length of time in program. So these are our numbers that we had. We distributed a total of 3,903 surveys. And whenever we got surveys returned, we sent out a replacement survey if you gave us a new updated address. But if you didn't, we took that that number out of the total distributed. So that didn't count as a survey that was distributed for your community center board. We received 939 surveys back, and that is a response rate of 24%. That compares to 25% for last year, so it was pretty even for distribution and responses. This is a list of all of the community center boards and their response rates for this year. And that's on the report, so you can take a look at that. I did also send each community center board your own report that listed your specific information. It doesn't list the specific demographic information, but it does list the totals and also all of the comments that we got from families within your community center board. And so I sent those to the person who is listed as the program contact on our website. So if your community center board didn't get that and you would like a copy of that, please let me know and I'll be happy to send that to you. We had 9 community center boards that exceeded or were equal with the state average response of 24%. So when we look at the representativeness of the survey for this year, these are the areas we looked at: program size, race and ethnicity of the family, the gender of the child, the age of the child, and the length of time in the Early Intervention Colorado program. So by program size, we divided this into extra small, small, medium, and large programs. And I won't read all of these specifically because I know that you have access to the report and access to this PowerPoint. But basically, the bottom line is that, you know, we received a fairly representative amount. We do want to try to encourage the extra small programs to be able to hopefully have some more returns in the future. But overall, it was pretty representative of the amount that we sent out. This is representativeness by race and ethnicity. And again, it is pretty representative. We did have a response of 1% fewer in the category of Black or African American than we sent out. And we had a higher percentage of Asian returned. But overall, it's pretty representative of the surveys that we sent. The representativeness of the gender of the child. Again, we distributed 62.2% to families who had children who were male and received 65.7% back. So again, pretty representative in that area of gender. And then by age of the child, again, you can see that our surveys that were distributed were fairly equal to the percentage of responses we received. And this is length of time in program. Again, not the exact percentages, but pretty close, and so you can tell that we feel that that our survey represented the distribution that we sent. So these are the percentages of the outcomes for our state that we attained. For families knowing their rights, 94% indicated that that had been attained. for effectively communicating their children's needs, 95%, and helping their children develop and learn was 96%. These were for families who scored the survey a 5 or higher on the survey. These are our targets. So we set our targets several years ago, and we had a target of for outcome A, 85%, outcome B, 88%, and outcome C, 85%. And you can see that we exceeded those targets in every area. This is our comparison to last year's data. We increased in every outcome area this year, 2% for 4A and 1% for both 4B and C. So yay, that was great. Now this is the early literacy question, and this year last year we just put, has early intervention helped your family include any of the following, and it was just a check mark. This year we added a yes or no, so they could actually answer yes or no if early intervention had helped them. Many families made comments, and I could tell that from the comments they were talking about this question. They would say something like, early intervention didn't help me do this. We already did this in our family. And so I think they were commenting on the fact that, you know, they were already reading to their child or helping their child learn to speak. But you can see from the responses that we did have a high percentage of families that indicated that early intervention had helped their family in these areas. And this is not on the slides, but as a comparison to last year, well, I'm going to show you the same information in a different format. So this is the same information just in a graph form. And so compared to last year, reading last year we had 63.2 that indicated a yes, so that's up 17%. Speaking last year was 85.8%, so that's up 7.8%. Listening was 72.8% last year, so that's up 17.5%. And pre-writing went up from 47.7% last year, so that's up 19.4%. So I think a lot of people chose to answer that question this year compared to last year, and so that showed a much higher percentage in, you know, our early literacy activities for children in our program. Here are just some sample positive comments. We actually had comments. I categorized the comments into 4 different areas. The first one was contentment, gratitude, and appreciation for services. We had 58% of the comments were in that category. We had recognition for specific service providers or coordinators. That was about 16.4%. And then some families listed challenges or suggestions for improvement. That was 11.3%. And then there were just some miscellaneous comments that were related to the survey or child development or other miscellaneous information, and that was about 14% of the comments. And so as you can tell, many, many people are really thankful and appreciative and have a lot of gratitude for the program and for the things that you all do. So these are just a couple of comments. I'll read these in case there is someone on the phone that is not able to see these, but one person said, I'm so thankful to have the early intervention services for my son. They've been a huge support for both my son and myself. His EI team has worked so hard to get him where he is today. I look back and wonder where we would be today if I had never called to have my son evaluated. Each and every day, I'm grateful to have these wonderful people working with my son and myself. Another parent said, this program has been wonderful for our family. The support we have received for our child cannot be described. Thank you for helping us in a challenging time. And then this was a comment that was in Spanish. We did have several comments in Spanish, and we put both the Spanish and the English if we had that on your individual reports. And this one says, I liked it very much, and it helped my son. Now I can communicate with my son because before we weren't able to communicate. This is another positive comment. I found the EI Colorado services to be very easy to set up and extremely useful to my son or helpful to my son. I was hesitant at first to call and set up the assessment, but the staff made the process quick and easy. Once my son was enrolled for services, the 2 providers we worked with, speech therapist and teacher, made the appointments fun and informative. Our whole family learned from our time with them. It was a very positive experience, and I'm grateful my son was a part of this program. It's been a joy watching his communication skills develop as well as his social, emotional interactions blossom. I highly recommend this program service. Thank you to all who work to make this program available and extremely effective. And we had many, many more comments that were equally positive. Here's some sample comments with challenges. This was from a Spanish comment that we got. It says, one time I got a little bit scared because they told me that my service was going to be canceled due to lack of funds, but thank God it was a false alarm. Thank you for your services. We are very thankful for the services. It's made a huge difference in our son's speech. The only thing I would change is that often our therapists or other professionals would cancel appointments or show up late. And then this next comment, I just put part of the comment. It says, overall, we've been really pleased with the level of service we've received. The only other feedback, as a working full-time family, I wish there were more options for flexible scheduling. Midday sessions are nearly impossible, but I feel that I'm expected to accommodate that numerous times a month. So I thought that some of those comments were relevant and helpful to families. Whenever families listed their name or their child's name or their phone number, I did take that out. But if they listed a service provider that had been especially helpful or something, I left that in for you so that you can commend them for that great service that they do. And so these were some ideas that were incorporated into this year's survey from last year, that suggestions that we got from different sources. I did a further training for the volunteers who were making the phone calls to the families whose primary language is Spanish. I think that can always be improved again, so I'll continue to do more training if we continue to want to have that done, but I think that it's helpful to get some more better representation for that demographic. We added that little graphic of the family rights brochure on Outcome 4A, which I mentioned previously. We added a note about comments. Previously, the survey didn't have a spot for families to put comments. They just did if they wanted to put them spontaneously. And so this year I did say, please add your comments to the back if you'd like to. And on the SurveyMonkey, there was a spot for comments as well. And I tried to send response rate to the community center boards a little bit more frequently this time so that you could kind of get an idea of your response rate as well. And I know that many people worked really hard to get those surveys in, so that was helpful for me. I hope it was for you. So my last thing here is to just ask if you have any suggestions or even questions about the Family Outcome Survey, and I'm going to unmute you and let you ask.
All guests have been unmuted.
Any questions or suggestions for the Family Outcome Survey in the future? Okay. Well, I hope you're there. Hope some people are there. Thank you. Okay. Because I'm like, what if I did this whole webinar and nobody was there? That'd be
no. You explained it very well. No questions.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to mute you again, and we've got a couple of more things. Looks like we might have a little bit of
all guests have been muted.
We might have a little bit of a shorter call, so we'll maybe be happy for that. We'll see. Finally, just about the Family Outcome Survey, all of our outcome measurements were high, and they remained high over the last 5 years. We're working on some target setting for next year, and we're probably going to raise our targets since our outcomes have been so high. Okay, I asked for questions already, so let's move on to information about the provider database, and I posted a little flyer that Connie made up on the TA call information, so you can see a kind of a summary of that. And I'm going to unmute Connie now so she can give us an update.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. This is Connie.
Yes, we can hear you, Connie. Thanks.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. This is my first time actually doing one of these, so bear with me. I'm just going to talk about the provider database changes in general, and hopefully you guys have some questions for me, but there's a few things that I wanted to go over. The provider database, the older one was switched over to a new platform about a month and a half, 2 months ago. We've been working through some little kinks, but overall I think it's gone very well. Hopefully you'll find some of the old functions working a little bit better in the new one. And please let me know if you come across anything that we need to take a look at. My name and number, email, everything is on the first page on your dashboard or your home page when you go into the provider database. One of the things I wanted to touch on is when a child is moving from one CCB to another and the record needs to be transferred, typically I get an email or a phone call letting me know that that needs to be transferred to the new CCB. You can also put a comment in the under the child's name in their comment section, and it will show up on my dashboard that they need to be transferred. So if you just wanted to say which CCB they need to be transferred to, I can take care of that and acknowledge the comment, and it will go away. The comment will remain in the child's record, but it will go off of my dashboard. We added several disciplines, and I had that copy a minute ago. So you might want to go in and take a look. I know one of them was a service coordinator because we didn't have anything for that. We have, here it is, behavior analyst, behavioral intervention professional, case management director, cued speech interpreter / instructor, early intervention director, infant / family specialist, licensed practical nurse, psychiatric technician, and Pyramid Plus coach. So those are all now available under the disciplines in the provider file. Another thing that has come up in having people going in and checking all their information and not doing the update is there's a requirement now to have privacy insurance or HIPAA insurance, and there's a checkbox in there that we added for privacy insurance, but a lot of people are finding that they have a rider on their liability insurance for that and weren't checking the individual privacy insurance. So you can either do that, or we set up a new one called liability insurance with privacy rider, so that you'll be acknowledged for having that privacy insurance. A couple of general comments I wanted to make was that when you have a provider, and hopefully you guys can pass them along some of this information, when you have a provider who changes their name or has a new email or something like that, sometimes they go in and they set up a brand new account. If they would just go into their existing account and make those changes so that that history is there, we don't lose that, that would be great. So they should be able to edit just about everything in their own account. One thing is that I'm finding that Early Intervention Colorado requests is that if you're a user in the system, like as a CCB admin, a CCB user, that you should also have a provider record and be associated with your CCB. So everyone should have a provider record first. Those are two different things. You're either a user or a provider typically when you go in, when you sign in, but you should have a record in each system. And then one of the things that hopefully you'll find this more helpful when you go into the screens is you can click on one of the headers and it will sort by that header. So for instance, if it has a last name and you click on last name, it will sort it by the last name to help you find whom you're looking for. And otherwise, most of the steps are pretty similar. Hopefully we've just kind of fine-tweaked them a little bit, and you'll find them easier to use. So I guess I would like to open it up for any kind of questions.
Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody.
All guests have been unmuted.
Hi, Connie.
Yeah.
If our admin staff need to go in there when they create a profile, is there something for them to choose as a discipline?
Yes. I think they can. Well, I'm trying to remember exactly what I chose because I didn't really have a discipline either when I had to do it. Let's see here. I think they tried to make this more broad, so they could, although they did call it a case management director. To be honest with you, let me see if I can find that, and I can see what the list looks like.
Okay.
You guys can bear with me for just a moment. So we have, it looks like some of the more broad categories is, I know there are some in here. I guess that's the early intervention is also a director that we added. We have the service coordinator now. So you could probably, I mean, you could check something that's very close. So you could just check that you're a service coordinator even though you're a CCB admin.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to be a user, or you're going to be the CCB admin in the user file, which will still give you the same security. The issue with having the provider piece of this is it gives us more information about who you are. Mm-hmm. And emails, which we may not have in your user file because it asks, you guys usually set those up with a login that's not an email address, and the provider always has to set theirs up with an email address.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure because they're not going to have IFP training or core training in their...
Right, and that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And Connie, we have a question in the chat. It says, historically, service coordinators have registered as a staff and as a provider. Is this necessary?
Yes. And that's exactly the same thing. A staff is a user typically, but you have to have a provider record. You should never be set up as a staff person or a user until you have a completed provider record in there. And that doesn't mean that you have to have all the qualifications and that kind of thing if it's not part of your position, but you should have that and you should be associated with the CCB, and that's the way to do it through the provider record. I hope that makes sense.
I have another question. I noticed that if a provider marks that they accept Medicaid, if they don't put in a Medicaid number, they can't move forward with other things. Do they have to put in their Medicaid number, or can they just put in some zeros?
No, they have to put their Medicaid number in. It's now a required field. Okay. And that was a request from Early Intervention Colorado.
Okay, because some were resistant to that. Okay.
I can't honestly answer. I don't know if anybody else on the phone can answer what the reasoning is behind that. I just know it was a request that was made.
This is Beth, and I think one of the reasons that we requested that is moving forward with the new database. We're hoping that providers can actually bill through the database, and so we need to know if they're a Medicaid provider or not, and this is one way to verify that.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, I see a question on here. It says, how do you register for a staff login? That would be within your CCB. So you have I don't know if you have a provider login already, but if you do, then you would just have to discuss that within your CCB and have somebody with that security access set you up in the user file.
Okay, any other questions for Connie? All right, well, thank you, Connie. We appreciate all of your help and all of your work on that provider database. I'm going to mute, I'm just going to leave everybody unmuted. And then our next thing is talking about our health authorization form, and Beth is going to do that.
Hi. Just what you guys wanted, another revised form. but we have run into issues where you send the health authorization form to the insurance company and say Kaiser will send it back saying, yes, this is a trust program, but then when Nicole goes to bill, she gets information that no, in fact, it's a high deductible plan and it's not eligible for the trust. And that causes a great deal of additional work for the CCBs, because then you have to go back and back out billings and, rebill using state dollars. And in an effort to try and hopefully resolve that issue, we have added another line. Right now you can see it's highlighted. It says this is a tax qualifying HSA plan, and then the amount left on the deductible. What that is the only kind of plan that actually falls under the requirement that the deductible be met first prior to the trust funds being accessed. And so just because a family has a high deductible plan, if it's not a tax qualified HSA plan, then it doesn't matter how high the deductible is. It is a trust program, and the deductible doesn't need to be met prior to accessing the trust dollars. And so we're hoping that this will provide a little bit more clarification. However, we're working with the insurance companies, and as you've all experienced, they don't always get it right away. So we are also working with them to try and make sure that they understand the difference between just a high deductible plan and then the tax qualified HSA plans. So if you run into issues with this new form, let me know, and I will work with the insurance companies to try and resolve it. Are there questions? Okay.
Thank you, Beth. We didn't post this yet in the form section because we wanted to run it by all of you first. So if you have any feedback that you want to send to Beth in writing about the form, please do that as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and post this and as the health authorization form that needs to be used starting today or tomorrow when I get it posted. Okay, so that is really the end of our presentation today. Do you have any general questions or anything you want to add before we go? All right, well, thank you guys so much for being on, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.